Good evening and welcome to the Community Forum on Standing Rock and the Dakota Access Pipeline. This forum is sponsored by the Dakota Resource Council, an organization that has been working with North Dakotans on local and statewide issues for almost 40 years. We'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. And to begin this evening, I will call on Father John Floberg for an opening prayer.
Let us pray. O God, you have bound us together in a common life. Help us, we pray, in the midst of our struggles for justice and truth, to come together not with hatred or bitterness, but to work together with mutual forbearance and respect. Be with us this evening. Help those who are going to speak from their hearts and their minds. Help us who are listening to listen with our minds and our hearts. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, we are very pleased to see so many people here today. My name is Don Morrison, and I'm the Executive Director of Dakota Resource Council. And DRC is sponsoring this community forum because there are voices, critically important voices, that are not being heard in our community today. Tonight is a time for respectful conversation. We know that there are many perspectives in our community. Most issues are like that. It's not all one way or all the other way. We can have better understanding if we listen to each other. So tonight, DRC is presenting the Standing Rock Nation for the folks we really need to listen to. Dakota Resource Council is a statewide membership-based community organization. We organize local groups to make sure that our voices are part of the decision-making process in our communities and state. Democracy in action on issues that matter to people who are living and working their whole lives here in North Dakota. A majority of DRC members are farmers and ranchers and rural folks, particularly in western North Dakota. Our most recent success, just so you get a little idea of who DRC is, our most recent success was helping to lead efforts to refer the corporate farming law loopholes that North Dakotans agreed with us by 76% on Measure 1 in June. DRC was founded in 1978 by farmers and ranchers and other community members in places like Dunn County and McLean County and Mercer County and Oliver County. Farmers and ranchers and community folks who were faced with a proposal for 67 coal-fired electrical generating plants. And these folks who'd lived in North Dakota for quite some time were a little worried about their ability to have a good life and to have that land reclaimed and the water not contaminated with that kind of an effort. It was grassroots community action in the 70s, participated in by DRC members, that led North Dakota to have one of the very best land reclamation laws in the country. That's a success, and that's what Dakota Resource Council is. But it's very different today. The past 10 years, our members, and we have lots and lots of members working on oil and gas issues from Montreal County, McLean County, McKenzie County, Dunn County, Stark County. And we've been dealing with oil development. You know, there's a lot of good. Like I said in the beginning, this is not an all or nothing. We should be very careful about false choices. It's all oil or it's all gone, one or the other. We need to be very careful about false choices. So, just raising some questions. DRC members have raised questions. For example, you know, that oil pad is in the wrong place and I'm not going to be able to get my cows from one pasture to the other. Who do you go to when you have that problem? There was nobody. They didn't listen. Whatever the oil companies wanted, the oil companies got. What about radioactive waste? The waste from the oil development. We raised questions. There were public meetings. We all went. We all spoke. We all gave examples of how our lives would be changed. They didn't listen. Pipelines. Please don't put that pipeline there because it's going to destroy my ability to make a living. Or, you know, why don't you put the seeds back and make sure I can grow things there when you're done? Didn't listen. So Dakota Resource Council has been on, since the beginning of the Dakota Access Pipeline, researching, listening to our members all across the way, from north of Fort Berthold, through Fort Berthold, around the corner, all the way to here and in Standing Rock. We helped many people testify at hearings. Nobody listened. So we didn't have a position actually on the pipeline until a year ago when our members said, you know, water is really important and we do not believe that this pipeline is going to protect water. So until that happens, we're going to need to show our opposition to that and work with people who are also in opposition to that until it is improved. But you know, the government and the industry have not been listening to indigenous people for 500 years. The Standing Rock Nation said no. They said it very clearly. You might not know that. And that's what tonight is all about. It's very difficult to get local coverage sometimes. And so you might not know that. The people of Standing Rock said no in the most respectful, prayerful, honest, and clear way. The courage it takes to stand up to a $4 billion project and the government that backs it is inspiring. You may not agree with this. You may have a very different, or a somewhat different perspective. That's fine. That's great. Let's listen and talk to each other. But the perspective I just outlined is a perspective for many people in North Dakota. And tonight's forum is not to air all the grievances and the differences that we've experienced over the last year. Tonight's forum is that there is a critical perspective that needs to be heard. So we will listen to, we have 3 speakers tonight, and we will listen to them, and then we will have time for questions and answers to your questions. And as I said in the beginning, this is a respectful conversation, and I have no doubt we're going to disagree with each other, and that's just fine. That's what we are supposed to do. Think about it if we couldn't disagree with each other and we couldn't disagree in public, but we can do it in a very civil and open and respectful way. This is not a debate. This is a conversation. So with that, I am very pleased to introduce our speakers, and they'll come to the table. The first is Standing Rock Tribal Chairman David Archambault II. Clay Byington, one of the youth of Standing Rock that helped make all this happen. And Gracie Claymore, Standing Rock youth. And I will now turn the microphone over to the Standing Rock Nation Tribal Chairman, David Archambault. Welcome.
Good evening. I just wanted to make sure that I made this event. You know, today was the first time we got snow, and it happened to be on this night. And the roads were bad. You know, I've been trying to travel up here and driving 35 miles an hour behind a line of 10 cars, and people see people taking risks. And so, but I came early so I could come. And I wanted to just share with this community some of our insights, because I know there's some differences that exist. And it's not something that I wanted to happen. It's not something that I pursued. This was something that had evolved, and it impacted. It's impacting a lot of lives, and I have to go back to why this is all important to us, important to Standing Rock. When you look at in the history, when we go back, if you could go back 500 years, you could go back to 1851. 1851, we had land, and it was land that was agreed to by two parties. We had the tribes, the Great Sioux Nation, and we had the federal government. And we both came together and we agreed. We said, this area will be yours, because more and more people were coming from the west. And so to keep confrontations from happening, so this land will be yours. Okay. 1868, more people were encroaching on that area, so the federal government came back and they said, let's reestablish these boundaries. So the tribe said, okay, we will reestablish these boundaries, but we won't do it without, we won't cede any more lands without 3/4 of all male, without 3/4 all male men agreeing to it. And then there was gold discovered in the Black Hills. So when there's gold discovered in the Black Hills, 1875, 1877, there was an act that reduced 1868 treaty. So it was an act of Congress. At that time, our men, our members, were not considered citizens. So we had no right, we had no say in the elected officials. The lands were taken, and the Black Hills were carved out. In 1889, there was another act that took place, and it reduced our lands to our current day reservations. And we were given a letter saying you have to evacuate the areas that you're living in and you have to relocate to the forts. We were told that by the cavalry. So this isn't something new that's happening today. This is history that's repeating itself. In 1908, there was another act. It's called the Dawes Act. And the Dawes Act, again, we're not citizens of this country, but the elected officials say your lands are going to be reduced again. The way we'll do it, though, is you have 2.3 million acres, your current day reservation, and everybody who's head of household is going to give be given an allotment number, and that's your land. Every individual is getting land, and whatever's left over, 1908, we're going to open it up for settlers. Settlers can come onto your land and they can occupy that now. It's going to be turned into It's going to be taken out of federal trust and put into allotment deeded land, fee deeded land. So that happened. So when they gave allotments, they asked, where would you like your land? And the majority of our members said, we would like our lands along the river because it has the most fertile lands, it has the most trees, it has the most game, it has the most fruit, it has water. So we would like those lands. So our allotments are all along the Missouri River. And then in 1944, there's a couple of things happening. In 1914, 1918, there was First World War. A lot of our members were not even citizens, but they enlisted in the military, and they stood beside people to fight for this nation. And then in 1924 was the act that allowed us to become citizens. In 1934, there was an IRA government. So in 1914, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe had its own constitution. In 1934, we had to reshape our constitution to fit the government's requirements. In order for us to work with the government, they need to work with the government. So we have a government to government, but it has to be the government that they identify. So we have the 34, and then in 1944, there was the Pick-Sloan Act. So I'm just going real fast. We could look into all of these things and we look at them. In 1944, there's a Pick-Sloan Act. The Pick-Sloan Act was to build 7 dams. So they strategized on where to put these dams. And each one of these dams were strategically placed to where, if you looked on the map, you would see an Indian reservation. And their lands were inundated with floodwaters. So there's another taking. And as history goes, every time there's a wrong that's done, there's trauma that's created. And what we're doing is, what this nation was doing was creating trauma and had a policy that says, kill the Indian, but save the man. Assimilate the Indian as much as you can. So that policy was strong, and every action that took place, they took our kids away, and our kids could not have long hair, and they could not speak our language. So today, I'm not a fluent speaker of Lakota. It wasn't my first language, but there's a reason why. Because when our my grandma is a fluent speaker, but she went to boarding school, and she was beat if she spoke the language. So she didn't pass that on to her son, my dad. So my dad's not a fluent speaker. That trauma that happens time and time again leaves us in a situation that we didn't want. We're not asking for this. We didn't ask for this. If you look at the 10 poorest counties in this nation, this whole United States, the number of counties that exist, if you look at 10 of them, 5 of these counties, the poorest counties in this nation, are on reservations in the Great Sioux Nation. So we have Pine Ridge Reservation, Oglala, Rosebud, Shine River, and 2 on Standing Rock. 5 of Great Sioux Nation. That's something that we didn't want, and we didn't create that. We have there's a confusion. We understand and know that we're a sovereign nation, and we also have a treaty. So this treaty we never ceded, or we never gave up. We always maintained, and we always believed that it's there. And in this treaty, there were promises that were made. Promises that we would have education. Promises that we have law enforcement. Promises we'll have health care. Promises that we'll have education. Promises that we'll have food. Promises we'll have clothing. So those are the promises that were made in exchange to stay in this area that we call land. So when that happened, when we look at that and we look at what's happening today, whenever there's an area with high poverty, doesn't matter where you're at. It could be in the inner cities. It could be in rural America, anywhere. If there's high poverty there, the welfare program provides for them. It's the same welfare program. So there's a myth that tribes and Indians and we get everything free. We don't. We're high poverty. We get the same welfare benefits as anybody else in inner cities across America. It just so happens that we have a 60% unemployment rate. We have a 40% poverty rate. This is just Standing Rock. I'm not talking about the other reservations. Standing Rock has a 60%. No, so when this state is developing oil, it had the lowest unemployment rate in the nation. Had 2.8 unemployment rate. But it didn't include the unemployment rate on reservations. And our reservation, we had 60% unemployment. So when you have that, what's happening in the state, I'll kind of, that's just a little bit of history. So what I did was I ran for tribal chairman because I wanted to try to curb us. What happened to us happened over 200 years, and I have to bump us in a new direction so that we don't stay in the situation forever. We don't stay in this rut. We have to try to come out of it. What can we do? What can I do to help? And maybe if there's some things that I change in 50 years or 100 years, there's a difference. And we'll look back and say, if I can think about when I'm not here, what happened at that time so that we were able to come out of it? And I know there are nations that faced the same situation and came out of it. So I know it's possible. What my whole purpose was to invest in our youth. And this is something that I learned from my dad. And you got to learn, invest in kids. You create brilliant minds, and they'll solve the problems that we have. So what can we do? We look at their education. If we look at just education, it's failing in Indian country. We have a 50% dropout rate. And when you have that, it contributes to the situation, contributes to poverty levels, contributes to unemployment. So we have to try to change that. And we can't change adults, but we can invest in kids, and kids can make a difference for us. So that's what when I do things, I think about the future. And if I do that, I could sleep at night. If I'm trying to please everybody, I can't sleep. There's no way you can do it. And that's today, trying to get, and if you're in an area where there's high poverty, it'll never happen. You can never please everybody. And so, in 2003, there was oil taken off in North Dakota. 2006, we saw fracking. 2007, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe passed a resolution that said, we don't want pipelines. There was unregulated pipelines crossing the state. We don't want pipelines crossing our ancestral territory. We didn't say Standing Rock Reservation, we said ancestral. This was in 2007. 2008, we passed another resolution on Standing Rock Sioux tribe saying we put a moratorium on fracking. We don't want fracking on Standing Rock. Maybe there's a resource there, maybe there isn't. The Bakken Bowl, we were on the edge of the bowl. There's natural gas. There's companies coming to the reservation saying, we're buying up land because we think we're going to explore natural gas. And so we put a moratorium. We don't want fracking on Standing Rock. And why did we say that? Just a little bit of insight of our culture. Not much. I'm trying to do this fast. So when the way we are taught is, if you look out, you see movement. When there's movement, there's life. And when there's life, there's a soul. We call it nari. Nari. So when there's a soul, there's a connection. So we have a connection. And so what we say is midakyase. In our language, it means all my relations we are all related. So some people say it means I'm related to you, but what it really means is that our spirits are related and they can communicate. So if it's a blade of grass, or if it's a tree, or if it's an animal, or if it's something that swims, they have a naghi. And when you're connected to Unchi Maka, Mother Earth, you can learn from each other. And so a lot of our medicines that you see today that mainstream America uses for some of the illnesses, that where did they come from? How did we learn about it? The medicines were shared with our spirits to talk to each other and help each other. So it's something that's meaningful. But there's one thing in common for all these spirits, all these naghis that they need, and that's water. So water is something that gives life. And we understood that, and we never thought of water as a resource. We thought of water as a relative. So we respect water. And I always tease my wife, what we do today is we take water for granted. She knows this is coming. We take water for granted. So we take long showers. We use water to flush our waste. We think it's never ending. I say my wife because I don't let her take baths 3 days out of the week. So she washes up every now and then. So what she does to me, though, she says, "Here's some baby wipes." No, but it's when we take water for granted, we see something happening, and what we see is aquifers reduced by 1 foot, and when an aquifer drops 1 foot, it takes 1,000, 2,000 years to replenish it. And what replenishes it is this cycle. And what we're witnessing is rainforests disappearing. We see landscapes in South America being cut down for beef. We see them being cut down for palm oil. And so when the rainforests aren't replenishing the water, it's gonna come to a time when we're gonna have a world war, not for oil, not for money, not for territory, but for water. And that will come sooner than you know. So, but it's not too late. We can always do it. So just knowing who we are, how our culture is, we're connected to the center of the earth, to the surface, to the universe. We allow the stars to guide us. They guided us for centuries. In our territory, in the great Sioux Nation treaty lands, we had a ceremony in April. We called it the Wakia Agli. That's welcoming back the thunder beings. And then 28 days after that, we had another ceremony in the Black Hills. It was on Peshla, and we gave offerings to animals. And then 28 days after that, we had another ceremony. It was a Hamblecha, or a vision quest. It was on Bear Butte. And 28 days after that, we had another ceremony, and it was at Devil's Tower, the Great Horn, Sundance. So, and we followed the buffalo to each one of these. So we were following the buffalo, and 28 days is significant because there's 28 ribs in a buffalo, 4 directions, the 7 direction, north, south, east, west, and then above, below, and yourself. There's 7 directions. So 7 times 4 is 28. So 28 is a sacred number. And that's like the whole history, the whole territory has meaning, and it's significant to us. And we have sites that are sacred to us, places that are sacred to us. So Peshla is one. Peshla means bald spot. If you go to the Black Hills, if you look at the Black Hills on the satellite, you'll see a bare spot. That's Peshla. And there was a development that was coming through Standing Rock. We can't allow that. We have to do something. So we with the other tribes, bought the property that was for sale for development, and we want to use it to continue our prayers. And then in 2013, I got elected. 2012, there was pipeline construction, pipeline proposal, KXL pipeline. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe wrote letters to the Secretary of Interior saying, we don't want this pipeline. When I had a chance to meet the president, I asked him not to sign off this pipeline because it crossed through our Great Sioux Nation. It crossed through just south of Standing Rock, cut between Cheyenne River, Pine Ridge, and on the edge of Rosebud. So we opposed it. Tribes opposed KXL pipeline is bringing tar sand oil. And tar sand oil, the way they extract tar sands is detrimental to the environment. So we opposed that, and it didn't pass. And then in 2013, I got elected as a chairman, and we sent letters. We let it be known that we didn't, but there was this other pipeline they were talking about. There's another pipeline coming. There's another pipeline. So when we knew that, we started looking into it. 2014, September 30th, 2014, we had a tribal council meeting. The Public Service Commission, along with the Dakota Access Pipeline, came to Standing Rock. And they said, here it is. And they put a poster up. This is Dakota Access Pipeline, and this is where we're crossing. And at that time, every argument that you hear today by the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe is the exact same argument that we had back then. The same comments that we had. You're crossing our treaty territory. We're people, and we don't want this to be here. Take it away. We have about an hour full of discussion back and forth with Dakota Access. So when you hear people say, oh, the tribe never consulted, the tribe was unwilling to consult, we welcome Dakota Access in. We welcome Public Service Commission in a forum, a public forum with our tribal council, our leadership. And we informed them that this is going to meet resistance. So they can't say that they didn't know. They can't say because we didn't go to a Public Service Commission hearing. The Public Service Commission hearings are advertised in papers. I'm not sure if it was even advertised in Bismarck Tribune. We're still trying to find it. But I do know it was advertised in other papers. And so we have to shift through newspapers to find out whether or not we can partake in a public service. And we're claiming to be a sovereign nation, and we have a government-to-government relationship with the federal government, and we have a government-government relationship with the state. And the state relationship that we have, it works if we do it, if we communicate. I'll give you an example. Whenever there's Indian education comes up, any resources that are available for tribes that have to come through the state, the education department says, we want to consult with you. Let's talk about how we could best meet the needs for your children. That works. When it comes to Public Service Commission, we have to shift through newspapers and try to find where this hearing is going to be so we can have input. And even if we did have input, it's not meaningful. What we call meaningful consultation is when we are showing ideas, our plans, our proposals, our regulations, our policies, and we provide our feedback and input, and then the two, we listen, and they listen, and then the reflection of that is the outcome of that. And it's not with low-level staff, but it's with decision makers. We never experienced that, not with this pipeline. We, so 2014, we had that, and then 2015, February, the Corps of Engineers comes up and says, we want to consult with you on Section 106, so National Historic Preservation Act, Advisory Council of Historic Preservation has a federal law that says Section 106, Section 110, Section 106, you consult with tribes and you find out whether or not there's any sacred places that are going to be impacted by this project, or if there's any lands, federal lands that are going to be, that have a sacred place that's going to be impacted. So we said we never got an opportunity to be consulted government to government. This project is coming through, it's already done, it's already scoped, it's already planned, it's already blessed. They got the permits from Public Service, but we were left out. And this is 500 feet, the very minimum that they have to be away from the tribe, away from national parks, away from whatever, 500 feet. That's the mark. So they do. They put that mark right there, and that's where they're going without consulting us. And they had a draft EA. When we saw the draft EA, we let everyone know that, this is ignoring the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, and it's going to meet resistance. We let the Corps of Engineers know this. We let Dakota Access Pipeline know this. We let all the parties know and knew, and they can't say they didn't. They knew that there was going to be resistance. So, and I don't mean resistance in a bad way. I just let everyone know we oppose this thing. We opposed it, and we've always opposed it. And they can't, if they tell you they didn't know, that's a lie. They knew. So, when the Corps of Engineers tried to consult with us in February, we let them know we never were had a government consultation. We need to have that first before we can move into this one. So you have government to government, section 106, 2 forms of consultation. The Corps tries to blend them together. If we do 106, now we're consulting with the tribe. And we're saying, no, you can't do that. You have to have, we're a sovereign nation, and the leadership has to get together and talk with you. So when they blend them together, both of them fail. Nothing happened. And there were correspondences, 389 correspondences. The tribe was contacted by email, contacted by phone call. Every time they were contacted, it was documented. 389 times, and when we took them to court, once the court approved of the EA, we took them to court, and we said we weren't consulted. This project, we want an injunction on this project because we weren't consulted. It's going to have an impact to sacred places. It's going to have an impact to our water. It's going to have an impact to our environment. It's going to have an impact to our culture. It's going to have an impact to our people. We need to be consulted before you approve of this. They said, you were. The judge said, you were. 389 times, whether it's a phone call or not. So we felt like the history shows that federal law, federal government is never friendly to tribes. So we appealed it. In the process, as we were asking for consultation before we went to court, we asked 3 agencies to write letters to the Corps of Engineers. The federal government works in silos. They all work in their own silo, in their own jurisdiction, and so we had Environmental Protection Agency write to the Corps of Engineers. Will you consult with the tribe? We had Department of Interior write a letter to the Corps of Engineers. Will you consult with the tribe? We had Advisory Council of Historic Preservation write a letter. Will you, Corps of Engineers, consult with the tribe? You need to fulfill that requirement. Corps of Engineers said, we try. But the tribe is refusing because they didn't do government-to-government consultation. We never had the opportunity to say this is. Now, we're in the 11th hour of this whole project. And the Corps of Engineers, decision makers, the Dakota Access Pipeline, Energy Transfer Partners, they're reaching out. Can we talk? This is the first thing we should have done. And I tell you this because had we done that, we wouldn't be where we are today. This wouldn't be the issue today. But it wasn't. It wasn't done. So 2015, February, we got the notice from the Corps. July, we responded to them right away. They responded back in July. So it took them 5 months to respond to our concerns about consultation. Then there was a draft EA. We went through that draft EA. There's nothing mentioned of Standing Rock. Then there was a approved EA. When we asked for an EA, environmental assessment, it takes a look at the environment. We were asking for an environmental impact statement because when you look at an environmental impact statement, it takes people into consideration. Environmental assessment just looks at the environment. And we asked for this from the Corps of Engineers. So the Corps, I had 2 meetings with the Corps of Engineers that I would say they heard us. They knew that we were opposed to this. I took the colonel out and I showed him the land and I showed him the area. I showed him how historic and how significant the sacred place is. I showed him a sacred rock. I showed him what this was about. So he can't say that he didn't know that we were going to oppose it. And then they came out with the EA. They forget about what the tribe is saying. This is a formality. This is how we get these projects done. You have to at least try to say, follow the law and say. So they followed the law. They said, check the box. Here's an EA with the FONSI, finding of no significant impact. This finding of no significant impact, there's nothing, this project is blessed. The only thing they didn't get was they got the permits, but they didn't get an easement. So they still don't have the easement today, and we're still asking them not to approve of the easement because there's concerns and there's issues that we never got resolved. And so that's where we are today. There has been awareness built about this. We have the first, in August, there was a pre-construction notice we got. The company's going to come through and they're going to construct a road. And we had people, now this is where I want to talk about the youth, where in August, probably before that, in July, March, the youth were already saying, we don't want this pipeline. We don't want this pipeline. And there was a run from Okpala in South Dakota to Mobridge, running over the river. And before they did the run, they said the prayer. So I want to thank Father Floberg for sharing the prayer to start this off. Everything that we did was with the prayer. And there was a run from Mobridge, or from Cannonball to Omaha and deliver a letter to the colonel, ask him not to do this. There was a spirit camp that was started. And the spirit camp was to pray. Let's pray. And that might be the only thing we had. And then there was another run. The youth ran from Cannonball all the way to DC. And the youth kind of started this whole movement with social media and asking people to sign a petition saying, please relocate this pipeline, or don't do this to the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. And here's our opposition. So they had 160,000 people sign it. I don't know what it's at today, but we had 160,000 people sign it in August, and they took off. And they went to deliver this. It took them a couple of weeks to get out there, and they came back. So our youth have always been about protecting the water. And the other component to this is our elders. Our elders have been involved. And then we have ceremonies. And I'm not telling you to believe any way or not, but in our beliefs, there's abilities by individuals who can speak to spirits. And the spirits told us we have to do this in a prayerful and peaceful way. So our youth have always said, you can do this in a prayerful, peaceful way. Our elders have said that, and then our spirits are telling us, you can do this in a prayerful, peaceful way. So we have always maintained, and that's been the tribe's position, and I've always tried to make sure that we do this with respect. And it means a lot more if it can happen. But this thing has evolved to where there's people from all over. There's today, I would say there's 7,000 people or more that are at the camp. There are 2,000 more coming. So that this is getting world attention. So it's important that we know this, because what are we up against? What is the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, and who is Standing Rock Sioux tribe? Why do we matter? We're just another Indian reservation. What are we up against? So when we start to ask that question, what are you up against? This state has experienced oil and has experienced the benefits of oil. So the state and the politicians of the state are pro-oil, pro fossil fuel. So you have the oil industry, you have Senator Heitkamp, Senator Hoeven, Congressman Kramer receiving oil contributions for their office. You have unions that are pro work, and I don't have nothing against unions. I think I try to build relationships with unions in my past job, and I think it's necessary, and I think it can help tribal nations if we can build apprenticeships with our youth, our young men, so that they can go. But there's unions, and then the federal government. If we look at this federal government, they'll say, we just go back to the Bush administrations, we go back to Oliver North, we can go back and say, how are they intertangled? How is the federal government intertangled with the industry? And it's there, it's real, and it's just a reality. So what we're up against is the federal government, the federal laws that allow for this project to go through, the state government, the state politicians and unions, and who are we? We're Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, and we don't have say. We've been saying, nobody listens because we're up against this. So what is it that we have? And what the one thing that came to reality is that we have unity. We have people who come together. We have tribes. For the first time, over 300 tribes came and they brought their flags. We have different organizations, different groups from all over. I had a young man from a guy from Ecuador. I had a guy from Quebec. We had a guy from Brazil. You know, we had just tribal nations, indigenous peoples from all over saying, and the common denominator saying, the things that are happening to you happen to us. The Corps of Engineers treated you like this, they treated us like this. So there's the unity that came together. And the other part of it was prayer. By keeping that message in prayer and peace, I start seeing things happening. I start seeing good things happening. But it's forever evolving, it's forever growing, and I never try to control the situation. I just try to work with people. And the relationships that we have and that we built with each other over the years has been good. So my wife, her name is Nicole Thunderhawk. So her dad is John Thunderhawk. John Thunderhawk worked in the United Tribes for over 30 years. John Thunderhawk was an athlete. He can play the game, whether it was fast pitch, whether it was basketball, he was an athlete. And so when we think about that, you have people who are in this community who all of us know who respect, and we have a relationship. And what's happening here is it seems like that relationship is getting tainted, and it's getting more and more difficult for me to come to Bismarck, because I get these eyes that look at me. They cut right through me like I'm doing something wrong. And all I'm doing is I'm staying focused on one thing, and that's water. Water is life. So if I stay focused on water, there's all these distractions. You can call them political distractions, you can call them any distraction you want. But a distraction is, okay, we'll do it to ourselves. We'll have to have an action. And I try to stay out of any actions. We have to talk about treaties. When we talk about treaties, we forget about water. We have to talk about the treatment that law enforcement is doing to members. Now, so if every time there's something that tries to distract us, we lose our focus on water. And we lose the focus on our kids. So all these distractions are there. And they pop up every day. Yesterday I had a distraction. Today, just before I came here, I had a distraction. These are real distractions that exist, and it tries to take our focus away from water. So why is it important? I know that our relationships are important because we're not going anywhere. I know this company, when they come, whether that pipeline goes through or not, they're going to be gone. I know the workers, the security, they're going to be gone. But I'm still going to be here. My family's still going to be here. I have a son. I have a daughter. They're still going to be here. And when it's all said and done, however long it takes, I still have to have relationships with our neighbors. I still have to have relationships with our communities. So I understand that some of these relationships get hurt by the distractions that take place. But it's important, and that's why I wanted to come tonight, was because we need to continue understanding each other. We need to continue a relationship. Even if we disagree, it's okay. You can disagree with everything that I said. That's okay. I respect you. And I understand. I understand your frustrations. I'm frustrated too. This whole thing is frustrating for me. But I know we'll get through it. Oil company be gone. All the water protectors will be gone. Our kids are going to be here. I'm going to be here. The tribe's going to be here. The community of Bismarck, the community of Mandan, the community of Morton County, we're going to be here. So it's important that we just try to understand. And I'm not trying to I'm done.
Sorry, Chairman.
I think that's a good time to stop. And I talk too much. They gave me 10 minutes. I probably talked for about 15, maybe. So I'll let our youth talk.
Hi, everyone. He basically covered everything I was going to say. So, I don't know. My purpose was to come here to tell you guys, I'm Gracie Claymore, by the way. I'm from Standing Rock, and I grew up there all my life. I currently live there. I go to college there. I plan on working there after college. So I came to talk to you guys a little bit about how the movement started, but he told you guys about that. So, like he said, this movement started with youth. My peers, they started the runs to bring awareness because a lot of people didn't really know about the real reason why we were here in the first place, why we wanted to fight against this oil company, why we wanted to protect our water, why we wanted to protect our lands. So our innocent youth, our peer youth, took it upon themselves to let the world know, let our country know what we're up against. And that in itself is so powerful. I mean, kids doing this, little kids taking time out of their summer to do this, and I think that's amazing. So what they had done is they did these runs to bring awareness, and the big one that started this movement that you guys all see now, with the camp and, you know, the Standing Rock, everything, they ran to Washington, D.C. They had this petition ready to go to bring to President Obama's attention, whether they got to see him or not. They wanted to let him know that they were on their way out there to tell him to stop this pipeline. And along the way, they picked up celebrity attention. They picked up the world's attention. I mean, every community that they stopped in, they told whoever. I can't kneel like this. Sorry, guys. I'm a little bit too tall. They told everybody about what they were doing and what their mission was. And let me just stress this one more time. They ran by foot all the way to Washington, D.C. It took them almost a month to get there, but they felt so strongly about it that they did it. But along the way, too, they ran into a lot of hate as well. A lot of people saying negative things to them about, you know, you hear this all the time about being, excuse my language, but about being prairie warriors. or being Native American, they ran into those things, but they kept going anyway. And I think that's why it's so powerful. And I'm sorry, I'm really nervous standing up here in front of you. Like he said before, I'm nervous, and I was nervous to come to Bismarck because every single time I come up here, I get looked at too, because I'm brown. Because I wear t-shirts like this to support the youth that are just trying to do something really, really beautiful. And I'm sorry that I cry every single time that I talk about this. But there's division that is happening. And I'm sure all of you have social media. I'm sure all of you watch the news. I'm sure all of you have been reading the comments in things such as KFYR or KX News, whatever it may be. I read them because I'm young and I live on social media. We see these things, my peers and I, about, calling us these awful names and talking about how we're just poor and, things like that. And it's really discouraging to hear things like that coming from our neighbors who we respect. We don't come up here and, call you guys down or anything like that. So to us, it was kind of heartbreaking it is heartbreaking to see those things because we're just trying to protect our water. That's what this message has been from the very beginning. It was never meant to turn into what it did now, I guess I could say. It was about protecting our water and protecting our land from the very beginning. And the movement that you see now has grown so much. And there has things that have happened between law enforcement and our people, but that was never our intention from the very beginning. Like we said, it was meant to be peaceful and prayerful, and that's how our youth will always carry it out. That's how our chairman will continue to carry it out, because he supports the youth 100%. I guess it's just a matter of, our youth being tired of being called these different things, or being tired of being oppressed because we deal with the trauma that has happened to our ancestors 500 years ago. We still deal with it today. The alcoholism, the abuse, the things that have trickled down from our grandparents, not being able to speak our languages, those things we still deal with today. I don't speak my language, and I wish I could. I wish I could, because it's beautiful, and I wish I could share with all of you. I wish I could share how beautiful our ceremonies are with all of you. I wish I could share so many things with you, but I can't, because our people have been oppressed for so long, and I still deal with those things today. So I guess I just wanted to come and let you guys all know how this movement started with peace and prayer with the youth. It's really hard to stand in front of people and talk, even though we've been doing that since the beginning, but I just really hope you all open your eyes and realize that this movement started because these kids wanted clean water, because they simply wanted a future and they simply wanted to live. That's all that that's all this is about. It's not about race, it's not about being white, black, brown, whatever you may be. It's not about that. And I hope you guys can put that aside and just realize that it's about water. Yeah, I don't want to have to come to Bismarck anymore and be afraid. I want to come to Bismarck and say Merry Christmas to all of you, or say hi to all of you, because that's real for me. That's real for my friends that come up here. I guess I just wanted to share a quick message, because he pretty much said everything. So, I'll just let my friend come up and talk.
Good evening. My name is Clay Byington. I currently live in Bismarck, and I work on Standing Rock. I've done a lot of work with our youth. I'm one of the youth. Our movement started months ago. I guess Gracie and being third and the third being last, kind of, there's really not much left to say, but our tribe, with our treaties, is guaranteed the right to clean water, and with the reason why, one of the reasons why we have opposition to this is just our tribe's right to express its tribal sovereignty to the government and to our state governments, showing that we can, stand up against that. What Gracie and Dave, Chairman, said was, it's powerful to see this movement. Basically, one thing I wanted to reiterate is like our relations with our city and state and our tribal relations. We've all seen it on social media. They're not severed, but they're lower than what they were before. Our point and our mission of this was to be peaceful and with prayer, and I hope that we can heal our relations as we move forward. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. We will soon have some questions and from the audience and answers from the panelists. But I wanted to just make one connection from remarks that Chairman Archambault said, is many of us were here before this started. We're here now. And we're going to be here for a long time together. And that's what this is about. This is the beginning of listening. That's the beginning of repairing relationships. And so I want to thank again all three of you for being here today. I also wanted to introduce, we couldn't have done an event like this without the Dakota Resource Council staff. And I wanted to introduce the Dakota Resource Council staff if I could. Jennifer Weisgerber, Cecilia Montez Diego, Tim Glazer, Nicole Donaghy, Claire Laustuder, Sonda Sowers, Liz Anderson, and Liz Luce, who was in charge, the woman in charge today. So thank you all. And if you have any questions about DRC, feel free to talk to them. We're a membership-based organization and a community-based organization. So thank you very much for that. With that, we will have one microphone. We'll take a microphone around the room. And as if you have a question to address to one or all three, please state who you address the question to. And also, or if you would like any of them to answer the question, that would be good.
First question?
Over here.
Hand up. Over.
Chairman, question. Gene Still from Pennsylvania came out here to help legally in any fashion. But my question is, with the, I understand the taking over of the company by Sunoco. Could you talk about that a little bit and what this adds to what it means globally? Because Sunoco has a global presence, and how that changes things in any fashion, and what can be done to affect Sunoco's relationship with you folks now, and to make them understand where you're coming from, what can be done globally. Thank you.
So that's a really good question for Energy Transfer Partners and for Sunoco. So Energy Transfer Partners, and I could talk a little bit about Energy Transfer Partners and Sunoco. So Sunoco is a operator for pipelines, and they have the worst record when it comes to operating pipelines. So when it comes to just pipelines, the reason why we have a concern is they break all the time. Pipelines malfunction all the time. And the one company who operates them and has the highest number of breaks has the record. It's not something to brag about, but they lead the industry. And the company that is second only has 18 fewer breaks, but they operate 10 times more pipelines than Sunoco. So Sunoco is coming in. They're going to operate this pipeline system. And when you look at Energy Transfer Partners, the problem is they lacked policies. And what I'm always looking for is how can we look at companies who are socially responsible. So is Sunoco socially responsible? Is Energy Transport socially responsible? And how do you gauge when somebody's socially responsible? You can look at their policies. And they'll have a community relation policy, they'll have human rights policies, they'll have indigenous peoples policies. So when we don't see any of those policies, then we look at the track record. And what's Energy Transfer Partners? You just go look and you'll see that they're in court right now. They're being sued in 4 different states for contaminating the water and contaminating the environment. And now they turn it over, and this move by Sunoco to purchase, it's a move to put the investors of Energy Transfer Partners at ease. I think they're one of the same. One's a builder and one's an operator. They do the same thing. They're in the pipeline industry. They're probably connected at the hip, and so. This is just a move to put the investors at ease because there is an understanding that there's resistance. And this resistance didn't have to be here had we been consulted in the beginning. And I believe that if we were consulted in the beginning with Energy Transfer Partners, that this pipeline wouldn't be the topic today. It would be something else. Now, when we look at the reality of everything is each and every one of us contribute to the fossil fuel development, oil industry. Until we change our behavior, there's going to be more pipelines coming in the future. So what's important to us, Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, understanding and knowing that pipelines are coming, our lands need to be protected. Our sacred places need to be protected. So if this pipeline wasn't in this area, and if we were heard, we know that the future is promising for our kids not yet born. So we really have to look at not just the future, but also let's look at the past, because our demand, we create the demand for this. The United States is the largest consumer of fossil fuels. And if we don't change our behavior, all of us, each and every one of us, what we try to do is we build a better future for our kids. My dad did it for me. His mom did it for him. We got to make something better for our kids. And so it's our responsibility now to try to make something better for our kids in the future and our grandkids. But if we don't do anything and we continue to consume fossil fuels like we are, we're not going to leave anything for them. So it's important that the environment we have to be aware. And I'm not trying to create a debate or anything. I'm just going to tell facts. And the facts is our ice caps are melting. Facts is our rainforests are disappearing. Facts are the ocean levels are rising. Those are facts. And I truly believe it's because of our behavior. So we have to change our behavior if we want to leave anything for future generations. But you asked the question of Sunoco and Energy Transfer. that's a question for the company, and I just try to answer it best I could.
Good evening. My name is Moji Aga. I'm an Iranian-American Sufi monk. I came up here to stand with my brothers and sisters the young lady who could be my daughter's age, the daughter I don't have because I'm a monk. She said she feels looked at, and she is called prairie nigger. I am looked at all the time, and I have been called a sand nigger. I come from a part of the world, specifically my Iran, whose government, whose democratically elected leader, the late Dr. Mohammad Mossadegh, the Gandhi of Iran, was overthrown at the behest of an oil company in 1953 by the CIA, by the Eisenhower administration, where at the end of his administration, he warned, he was a Republican general, he said, beware of the excesses of the military-industrial complex because it's going to take away your liberties. So I'm here, first of all, to stand in solidarity with you. And thank you for what you're doing. The eyes of the world, the eyes of the indigenous and the non-indigenous people of the world, the eyes of the poor people of the world, whatever their color or nationality, is on your beautiful uprising. My question is, and I as part of my background, I created the Think Tent of Tucson as a part of Occupy Tucson to think about the future of the Occupy movement. So my question is, how could I be useful in terms of giving some, whatever benefit my quote-unquote wisdom has to the future of this beautiful movement, so that our brothers and sisters in this state, in this area, who are poor and who believe that not the oil companies are responsible for their remaining poor, they understand that they share destiny with everyone and with every being, living or not, in our universe, actually.
Okay. So and it's a good question. Like, what can you do? If I can get paid for every time somebody asks how I can help, how can I help? I might be as wealthy as Kelsey Warren. But what I always say to people when they ask that question, how can I help? You know, the Standing Rock Sioux tribe never solicited money. We never asked for money. People donated. And so when they wanted to donate, and they wanted to donate to the tribe, we said, I had our tribal council get together and said, how do we use these funds? And we wanted to use it for legal services. Our legal battle is something that we're still in. And so we made sure that, and then the other costs that started to come up was accommodations for the camp. We started accommodating for waste management. So we never solicit money, we never asked. And when people come and they ask, can I donate? Feel free. Can I give you my intellectual? What I tell people is, whether you want to donate, you want to give clothing, or you want to give your intellectual skills, you have to follow your heart, and it will take you to where you need to go. And I can't give that direction. I can't say, give me money, give me clothes, give me water, I don't say that. So when you follow your heart, it'll fall into place. And for the future, what does the future hold of this? You know, I think there's a lot of things that are happening in this moment of time that we can learn from. And when for indigenous people around the world, we hold on. We hold on to the wrongs. And I shared them with everybody. I shared our wrongs. We hold on to them. And it seems like we're waiting for somebody to say, I'm sorry. And even if they say, I'm sorry, it doesn't seem like it's good enough because it doesn't fix anything. So it seems like we're as we hang on to these things, and this is the lessons that are coming, is that we need to learn how to forgive. I think, and what happens is if we forgive, because we know all the wrongs are there. There's one of two things that we can do. One, we can hold resentment, and we can fight, and we can live in misery, or we can forgive, and we can let it go, and we can move on with our life, and we can make a better life for our kids, and we can take our own responsibilities. But it just seems like that's pulling at us, that we have to now take that step. And forgiveness is something that all of us can do. And it helps build ourselves, and it helps build our family, and it helps build our community, and it helps build our nation. But, you see confrontations, you see wrongs done all the time. We can even see, I could witness them in the election, the presidential election. He said this, she said that. Now you have, now we just have to let it go. It doesn't help to hold on to anything. We need to accept what happened, and we need to move on and find out how we can build relationships, positive relationships, so we can build a better future for our kids.
Non-violence.
Okay. My name is Joyce Kitson. I live in Bismarck, and my Indian name is Pahishawe. I'm from Standing Rock, and I've lived here for over 18 years because I have kids that grew up that are in the system of the prison and the probation, all of this stuff. I always wanted to be at home, but when you're on the federal level, when your kids get in trouble, they can't get out. They're all stuck. And so I don't want to leave my kids. I'm here. I have 5 grown kids. And like I said, I'm from Standing Rock. My grandfather, Jim. In fact, that hill that's over by, that Turtle Island down there, I just cried because 18 of our native people from all over the world came to Standing Rock, and we all pray. We believe in the Word of God. We believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Moses. And we believe that there are people that are having dreams and visions just like we are, coming from all over the world. And this is what I say to North Dakota. We are a blessed state. We are Nakota, Lakota, Dakota. And we are blessed, blessed, blessed. The only wall that needs to come down, like Dave said, our grandmas, we're related to our grandmas. I have to tell you this. My grandparents raised me well. I know what Wagnaki is and all of this language, because I have been going on 19 years I've lived here. And I know what alcoholism, sickness and disease, when it hits the family, rebellion, all of this stuff. But I have the most beautiful friends in the Bismarck-Mandan area. 70% of us, every Wednesday we pray here. And I invited Dave, and the governor. I kind of give him shake his little foundation once in a while, because I call him whenever I see Native people being mistreated in this area. I said, on the sheriff's department, there was racism comments about us. And I called the governor. I said, you better check on this. I said, because we don't need this right now, relationship-wise. So they said, oh, Miss Kitson, we'll get on it. The secretary got back to me. And I think it's a God thing that's happening all over the United States and the world, including in Israel. All the symbolism, fires, floods, earthquakes, the thunder beings. And I recently had a dream. A lot of us dream dreams and visions. and nobody wants to even listen to us. But we are a spiritual people from the beginning of time. We were the First Nations people. We were always here. Nobody discovered us. God created us. We were all came from our different corners of the earth. So we were always here. And I love you guys. You're all beautiful people. You have children like I have children. And I'll tell you this, we're prayer warriors, and we're coming into Standing Rock, we're coming into Bismarck, and all over the world people are praying. And I believe that Standing Rock is going to flourish. I believe that our children are blessed. All of our sons and daughters are blessed. When you pray, you have a relationship with Ate, Waka, the big holy God. We have a relationship. We're never alone. That's why I believe all 8 of us in my family are alive. Because my mother said that before she died. She said, I always pray for all of you. Don't forget that.
All right, some more questions, and I'm going to move in this direction.
Hi, my name is Andy Baker. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, and I do have a question for the youth, but I wanted to give you a little background. I woke up this morning at the camp, buried under 6 inches of snow, and I had heard about the issue in the news and the Facebook, but my first contact with the Cannonball River was reading the Lewis and Clark journals. They traveled from St. Louis up to the Knife River villages in the winter of 1804. They camped at the Cannonball River on October 27th. And they wrote about all of the interactions they had with the native peoples that lived all the way up the Missouri. And for the most part, they were very friendly. They did a lot of trading. They recorded a lot of their customs and traditions, and when they got to the Knife River villages, they camped downstream of those Mandan and Hidatsa villages on the opposite side out of respect for the people that lived there. And I've read those journals many, many times. It was always a dream of mine to come and camp on the Great Plains with the great tribes. And so I arrived there Friday, and it was more wonderful than I could imagine. I was very well received, and I went to a lot of the prayer ceremonies and tried to understand this spiritual basis that you're speaking of, and I hope I've absorbed some of that. I work as a clean energy engineer in the oil state of Alaska, trying to get people off fossil fuels. So my question for the 2 youth there is, if you don't want the oil pipeline, can you tell us some of your ideas of ways we can come up with energy not using the oil? What are your thoughts?
Basically, when you think of like oil, and I'm assuming you mean coal too, okay? Oil and coal, there are technologies that are being developed right now that you can make clean coal, but as for the future, for our grandkids and beyond, it won't happen immediately with my own theory, but like I believe like wind, solar, and nuclear energies would be priority. I mean, if you drive the outbacks of North Dakota, you see the big ridges, you know, and if we had more wind towers up, that would tremendously help. Solar, as far as that, I've read reports of like in Germany, they have a lot of solar energy there, and that's kind of like the same climate that we have here in our state. But as far as I know, as oil and coal, transitioning from that will take a while. We can't do it overnight or within a year or probably 10 years. That would just, it wouldn't be good like for like the economy or things like that either. That's all.
All right. Thank you. We have time for probably one or two more questions. We need to be out of this room and had all cleaned up and all the chairs put away by 9 o'clock. And so I think we'll take one more question.
I want to address, well, I'm Jean, and I'm from Bismarck. And it's possible that some of the water protectors know who I am because I have friends on both sides of this issue. And I've been pretty open about some of my concerns on both sides. And it's my understanding that my name and my license plate are out there. And I guess I'd like to ask Chairman Archambault if you're okay with this, that people's names and license plates are being taken as a way of what? Intimidation, yeah.
So, I don't think that's a form of violence. And one of the things that, when this whole thing started, I said no violence. And there were some actions that took place where the violence that took place was verbal. And I saw it. I saw someone just yelling and cussing at somebody. And so, to me, violence can take two forms. I could be physically, and I could hurt somebody, or I could cuss at somebody. And when I cuss at somebody, sometimes that hurts more. And they hold on to it longer. You could heal up from a bruise, but then if I say something so offensive that you can't let it go, you can't forgive. And I feel what you feel. I feel the same things. I get threatened too. I don't know how my number gets out there, but I get calls. And not only does it happen to me, but it happens to my family. So my family is at risk as well. And so for me to walk in fear, it doesn't help. If somebody wants to hurt me, if someone wants to threaten me, then I welcome it. Do it. I don't fear it. I can't let it change my life. I don't have anything. Every time I hear a book drop or something like that, but no, I'm not. But it's just, and I apologize for it. And I know it's hard to accept an apology from someone. I'm not doing that to you. And the water protectors are not doing that to only you. They're doing it to other people. And on the other side, they're doing it to, it goes both ways. And that's the confrontation that it might not seem violent, but it is. Anytime.
That's the scariest thing.
It's scary. Yeah, I hear you. I'll tell you what happened was my wife and I were in Bismarck at Shields, and someone takes our picture. And then they say, look at he's spending his money that he's making from his gas station. And so I don't know whose eyes are on me or what. When I came here, both Gracie and I, my wife, our knees are shaking because we don't know what's going to happen. But that's okay. We have to move forward. I believe what the youth had started and what we're trying to do is in the best interest of the kids, and it's in the best interest of our ancestors. And we're in this moment today to connect those two things. And I'm not going to let fear stop me from doing it. And I just want you to know that I'm sorry that happened to you. And you can forgive, but I know it's frightening.
Again, I want to thank Standing Rock Nation's Chairman, David Archambault II. Thank you. Clay Byington and Gracie Claymore, youth from Standing Rock. Thank you very much.